welcome back to Stray Trains. In this video we take a look at the ins and the outs of the Williamstown Line. This series is definitely near the end, but let's continue going. The Williamstown Line is served by Metro's Common, Siemens and Extrapolis fleet. The line code is WIL. The line is a total of 12 stations long, just 3 of them line on the Williamstown Line exclusively. The line serves Melbourne's southwestern suburbs and is part of the cross-city group given the colour green on our railways map. Service terminations include Newport and Williamstown. Typically for service alterations, no other stations are used. Time for some service notes. First up, the Williamstown Line does not utilise the City Loop. Typically, once departing North Melbourne, Williamstown city-bound services will run to Southern Cross, then Flinders Street direct, and then continue on to Frankston. Well, most services will, which is where the cross-city group name comes from, as it is a cross-city group running from east to west and vice versa. However, if Williamstown Line was to utilise the City Loop, it would be platforms 3 in the City Loop, which is part of the Northern Loop. The rest of the city platforms include Southern Cross Platform 13 on the up towards Flinders Street and Platform 14 on the down towards Williamstown. In terms of Flinders Street platforms, well, mainly Platform 10, but you could also see 4, 7, 8, 9 or 12 from time to time. All Williamstown services are stops all, which means there is no limited express service running during either peaks. Unfortunately though, the Williamstown Line isn't as simple as that, as it seems like all lines have their quirks, and for the Williamstown Line, after the peak PM on weekdays, during night network and early morning on the weekends. The Williamstown Line originates and terminates at Newport, not Flinders Street. Interestingly, Metro run 3-carriage Siemens trains for these services, and on the odd occasion, sometimes 3-carriage Commons trains. For customers between the city and Spotswood who wish to utilise the Williamstown Line during these times, must take a Werribee-bound train to Newport and change there, where usually a couple minutes later a 3-car shuttle will arrive. Sometimes due to timetable alterations, such as during the horse racing, 3-carriage services can operate all day on the Williamstown Line as shuttles between Newport and Williamstown Line. And to conclude this section, in terms of frequency, well, Williamstown Line is quite simple to remember. Pretty much through the entirety of the day, Williamstown Line will operate at a 20-minute frequency. The only real exception to this is during night network on weekends, when the Williamstown Line will operate at the typical every 60 minutes, though always originating at Newport Station. Time for some travel tips. Going back to before, that does mean that all Williamstown services being stops all is a guarantee. So if you do want to travel to either South Kensington, Seddon, Yarraville or Spotswood Station and you jump on a Williamstown Line train, you know that the train will stop there. If you are in the City Loop and want to connect with the Williamstown Line, best bet's to take a Northern Group service to North Melbourne at all times, except for about up to 1 PM on weekdays, where it is actually best to take a Burnley Group service, which is Platform 4 in the City Loop, towards Southern Cross Station and change there for a connecting Williamstown service. In terms of future plans and ideas, there isn't really much more you could do on the Williamstown Line. 20-minute service does seem pretty fair. There is, I guess, one level crossing to remove in the Williamstown Station, but overall, I guess it's a pretty fair line for what it does. But one thing maybe to consider is it seems like the way we're going right now, in eventually maybe 20 to 30 years, the 3-carriage train will be extinct on Melbourne's metro network, with the 7-car high-capacity metro train, soon the 6-car Extrapolis 2.0 train. It seems that new trains now are being built for the entire platform length, which will get me wondering what's going to happen when they would usually run 3-car shuttles. Will that mean that the Williamstown Line will become always a 6-car service, even if originating at Newport? Next up, whilst this isn't officially confirmed, it probably will happen. When the Metro Tunnel opens, the Williamstown Line will, and along with the Werribee Line, will become part of the cross-city group, with the Sandringham Line allowing the Frankston Line to utilise the Caulfield Loop, as Pakenham and Cranbourne services will no longer be heading via the loop to Flinders Street. So this is where we'll see different fleet changes across the lines of Melbourne. Alongside, the Frankston line will probably become 100% extrapolis. The remaining Command will only run on the Upfield and Craigieburn lines, leading to the Werribee, Williamstown and Sandringham lines, the new Cross City group, being ran by only Siemens trains. Reasoning to suggest this will logically happen is because Newport Workshops is the main workshops for the Siemens fleet in Victoria, so it would make sense to have Siemens always running at least on the Werribee and Williamstown lines. And because the Sandringham line will be part of the group, it would only make sense that the Sandringham line has the exact same fleet, as it is pretty important to have the same fleet on each group, as if fleet can only run on certain lines in a group, it does make timetabling very confusing, especially when delays happen, as it limits what trains can run on what services. Another thing would be to ensure that all passenger information displays are available at all stations. On the line, South Kensington and Spotswood don't actually have passenger information displays, so you actually need to press the green button and get an audio version of when the next services are if you don't have a phone or a timetable, which isn't the best for all types of people. Some people like to have the visual there. And as a cool story, the Williamstown line used to not terminate at Williamstown Station. It used to actually go a little bit further, closer to the water, to Williamstown Pier Station. Now this was pretty much for economic reasons, as there was a lot of, boat trade and whatnot in the nearby port, so having that train connection there was very beneficial. However, yes, in 1987 the line from between Williamstown Station and Williamstown Pier was closed, leading to Williamstown Station becoming the new and still current terminus of the Williamstown line. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video and learned a thing or two about the ins and the outs of the Williamstown line. And I think we'll leave it at that. Cheers.